Cheb, known to many as the killer, replayed the video yet again. No matter how many times he watched it, the masked player's movements never lost their sharpness. Each strike was clean, efficient, almost instinctive. Yet the longer Cheb watched, the more a strange feeling crept over him. The posture, the timing, even the way the hero repositioned himself, it all felt vaguely familiar, as though he had seen this person somewhere before. At that moment, a girl approached him. It was Yell, a member of the Red Bulls Guild. Cheb mentioned that he was thinking about Hirkin, the player wearing the Haho mask, currently one of the most discussed figures in the game. Yell shrugged and replied that if he had watched the same video dozens of times, it was only natural for it to start feeling familiar. A blond man nearby, overflowing with excitement, suddenly burst out with a loud comment. Yell immediately snapped, sharply telling him to shut up. She shoved him in the shoulder and added that if he was going to keep spouting nonsense, he should at least go inside already. There were only 5 minutes left before the broadcast. Cheb merely smiled slyly, gave her a wink, and said that he really liked her when she was angry. Yell crossed her arms, took a deep breath, and coldly replied that if he truly meant that, then he should prove himself during the stream. After all, more than 200,000 people had purchased tickets just to see him. Soon, thunderous cheers echoed through the arena as the leader of the Red Bulls and the 9th-ranked warlord, Matador Chiba, appeared. When the broadcast began, all the guild members gathered before the dungeon portal. The countdown started, and Cheb stepped forward, leading his troops. Raising his blade, he ordered everyone to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, at the Figgis Castle Raiders Association, Hirkinus stood with a deep frown on his face, scanning the quest list. Disappointment weighed heavily on him. There wasn't a single worthwhile mission available, though, given that this was still a beginner village, it wasn't entirely surprising. Still, the complete lack of decent quests irritated him. For a brief moment, he even considered taking a break from recording videos altogether. Just then, an elderly man approached him and cautiously addressed him as the adventurer who had cleared the Mount Bima cave. Hirkinus recognized him immediately, Khotan, the man he had spoken to before. Khotan asked for a moment of his time and led him to a more secluded corner. There, the old man said that he had heard about what happened in the cave and knew that Hirkinus had encountered a mutated creature. Hirkinus frowned, confused. He didn't recall accepting any such quest and said that he had only fought a werewolf with strange eyes. Khotan chuckled quietly and replied that this was exactly what he suspected. The monster was most likely infected by a mysterious power. Hirkinus listened skeptically, thinking the old man might simply be imagining things. Khotan continued, explaining that although the source of the infection was unknown, its influence caused monsters to lose control, leading to countless victims. For this reason, the association had issued rewards for those connected to these incidents. Before he could finish, Hirkinus suddenly grabbed his hand and declared that he wanted to take part in the hunt. In his mind, this had to be a hidden quest, and there was no way he was going to miss it. Khotan tried to explain that it was still too early for such a challenge, but Hirkinus firmly insisted, assuring him that he could handle it. Pressured, the old man finally relented and said that his decision would depend on how well the young adventurer performed. He mentioned that in Banzu Castle, east of Phygos, there was a man named Ahimbri. Khotan added that Ahimbri could guide him and promised to write a letter of recommendation. At once, a new quest appeared, the Teachings of Ahimbri. Objective: find Ahimbri and present Khotan's letter. Reward: skill book. Leaving the association, Hirkinus struggled to contain his excitement. He could hardly believe what was happening. Becoming Ahimbri's apprentice was no small matter. Ahimbri was one of the 7 disciples of the great mage Bogan, a legendary figure sought by countless mages for rare skill books. This was an opportunity of immense value. Hirkinus rushed forward, convinced that his titles and progress in the main quest had opened this path for him. If everything went well, he wouldn't need to worry about video content for a long time. Suddenly, he stopped. There was one important thing he had nearly forgotten. Turning toward the forest, he activated Bone Fragment and summoned his companion. As the skeleton appeared, Hyrcanus realized that he still hadn't checked the rewards from the previous battle. He decided to start with the werewolf skull he had kept. The system asked if he wished to use the skull to strengthen the skeleton warrior. He agreed immediately. The system announced that the skeleton had gained werewolf traits and received +2 stamina. Next, Hyrcanus equipped the necklace of the corrupted ranger without hesitation. The system confirmed activation, and all his stats increased by 18 points. He felt power surge through his body. Everything was finally falling into place. Then, he took out 2 more bone fragments and threw them to the ground. 2 additional skeleton warriors formed. The original skeletons stared at them in confusion. Hyrcanus explained that there were now 3 of them, and from this point forward, they would fight as one. He told them they had to get along. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Hyrcanus wondered what kind of monsters lived in the area. Meanwhile, the original skeleton quietly went berserk, clearly believing that it alone should be the master's disciple. They soon encountered a level 25 forest bear. The beast charged immediately, forcing Hyrcanus to dodge. Massive claws tore through the air, missing his head by mere centimeters. Then the bear roared and lunged again. Hyrcanus panicked, convinced he wouldn't evade in time, until he smiled, snapped his fingers, and realized the beast's attention was fully on him. One skeleton rushed in, but was swatted aside instantly, bones cracking on impact. Furious, Hyrcanus shouted that such a predictable attack would never work. He ordered another assault. The second skeleton charged and suffered the same fate. Hyrcanus exploded in rage, yelling that they were supposed to attack from the blind spot. When the third skeleton stepped forward awkwardly, Hyrcanus almost felt hopeful. But the bear casually swung again, tearing off the skeleton's head. That was the final straw. Hyrcanus finished the beast himself. Afterward, he questioned whether his summons possessed any intelligence at all. He ordered them to retrieve their heads and line up, then patiently explained how enemies always turn toward the source of an attack. He even drew a diagram on the ground. The skeletons stared back blankly. Defeated, Hyrcanus sighed and told them to forget everything. Still, there was progress. His skill rank had improved, and he could now summon 3 skeletons. But a major issue remained. They couldn't fight as a team. They simply mirrored one another, wasting mana and reducing overall efficiency. Hyrcanus decided not to overthink it for now. He had reached level 20, his original goal. Though combat videos were out of the question for the moment, he stood up, ordered the skeletons to follow, and announced that they would train on the road to Banzu Castle. It was clear now he couldn't stay on the sidelines. If he wanted power, he would have to fight himself. Sometime later, Hyrcanus arrived at the Raiders Association branch in Banzu Castle. Inside, players of all classes filled the hall. Moments later, a man stepped out from one of the inner rooms. The crowd immediately erupted, desperate to know what task Hyrcanus had received. They surged forward like a frenzied mob, attacking the hapless player in the center, tearing him apart both figuratively and literally. Observing the chaos, Hyrcanus shook his head. The players around him reminded him of a pack of hyenas, always eager to pounce, always waiting to profit from someone else's work. He pulled the mask over his face, thinking bitterly that such people existed everywhere, exploiting others without lifting a finger themselves. Suddenly, a voice called out. One player asked if Hyrcanus had received a worthwhile task and offered to complete it together. Hyrcanus didn't even bother answering. With a cold shrug, he dismissed the player and headed upstairs, determined to keep the Ahimbri quest a secret. Once upstairs, he presented the letter of recommendation from Khotan. The caretaker carefully examined the document, confirmed its authenticity, and politely directed him to the second floor. Meanwhile, the frantic crowd below tried desperately to follow, claiming they were part of Hyrcanus' group, but it was clear they had no idea what they were dealing with. Hyrcanus wondered what kind of reward Ahimbri would give. He was certain it would be special. After all, this was a hidden quest. More importantly, he hoped to establish a long-term connection with this NPC. Entering the designated room, he politely asked for permission, and what he saw inside left him stunned. The room was a mess. Books lay scattered across the floor, Piles of parchment and scrolls were stacked haphazardly, and the chaos made it impossible to see the floor itself. From among the rubble, a man looked up in surprise, clearly caught off guard. "Who are you?" the man asked, squinting at Hyrcanus. "I don't recall making an appointment." It was the Himbri himself. Hyrcanus handed over Khotan's letter, introduced himself, and explained that he had come on behalf of the old man. Ahimbri scanned the letter, noted that Hyrcanus was a novice dark mage, and gave a small nod of approval. For someone so young, he concluded Hyrcanus already demonstrated remarkable skill. Then, Ahimbri presented the reward. Hyrcanus received the skill book, bone armor and the helmet of madness. He felt a thrill run through him. The acquisition of two extremely rare skills at once was beyond his expectations. He thanked Ahimbri profusely, unable to hide his excitement. But Ahimbri's expression remained serious. "The conversation is over," he said firmly, gesturing toward the door. "You may leave now." The system immediately confirmed the quest's completion. Ahimbri's teaching completed. A warning also appeared. "Be careful on the way back." Hyrcanus paused, frowning. Something about the warning felt strange. He called out to Ahimbri, asking him to wait, but the NPC had already turned away. The hero couldn't help but wonder why the quest had ended so abruptly, and why he felt that this was only the beginning. And that's where our video ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and leave a comment down below. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you're updated on our next content. Until the next video.